One moment it's open, the next moment it's closed, then open again, and suddenly shut once more. Ships slow down, oil prices jump, headlines change every hour, and the world is left asking one simple question. What is really going on in the Strait of Hormuz? Right now, something strange is happening in one of the most important places on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow stretch of water that carries a huge portion of the world's oil, is acting like a switch that keeps flipping on and off. One moment, everything seems normal. Ships are moving, oil is flowing, and markets feel calm. But then, without warning, everything changes. Reports come in that the route is blocked, or at risk, or suddenly unsafe. And just like that, fear spreads across the globe. This is not just another news update. This is a situation that keeps changing so fast that even experts are struggling to keep up. Every time the strait is said to be open, there's a small sense of relief. Traders relax for a moment. Shipping companies continue their routes. But that relief does not last long. Because soon after, new reports appear. Maybe it's closed again, maybe tensions are rising, maybe something bigger is about to happen. And once again, panic begins. Imagine you are a ship captain carrying millions of barrels of oil. One moment, you're given the green light to move forward. The next moment, you're told to stop. Then again, you're told it's safe. And then suddenly, everything is uncertain again. This constant back and forth is not just confusing, it's dangerous. It slows down decisions, increases risk, and creates fear in a system that depends on stability. At the same time, markets around the world are reacting instantly. Oil prices do not wait for confirmation. They move based on fear, rumors, and expectations. A single headline can push prices up within minutes. A small update can send them falling again. This creates a wave of instability that spreads far beyond the strait itself. Countries that depend on oil imports start to worry. Businesses begin to calculate losses. And everyday people, even those far away from this region, may soon feel the impact. But what makes this situation even more serious is the lack of clear information. There is no single steady answer, no fixed status. Instead, there are constant changes. Statements, counterstatements, updates, and corrections. It becomes harder and harder to know what is real and what is just speculation. And when people cannot trust the information they are receiving, the situation becomes even more unstable. This is where the real tension begins. Because the Strait of Hormuz is not just any waterway, it is a lifeline, a route that connects major oil producers to the rest of the world. When it becomes uncertain, the effects are not local, they are global. Every country that relies on energy feels the pressure. Every market becomes sensitive. Every decision becomes more difficult. And right now, the world is stuck in a loop. Open, closed, open again, and then closed once more. Each cycle adds more confusion. Each update increases the tension. And with every passing moment, one thing becomes clear. This is not just about whether the strait is open or closed. It is about what happens when something this important can no longer be trusted to stay stable. Because when the world's most critical route starts behaving like a switch that no one can control, the question is no longer, what is happening? The real question becomes, what happens next? If you look at a world map, the Strait of Hormuz might seem small, just a thin line of water between land, easy to miss. But in reality, this narrow passage is one of the most powerful points on the planet. It is not just water, it is a gateway that connects the world's biggest oil producers to the rest of the world. Every single day, massive oil tankers pass through this route. These ships are not carrying small amounts. They are carrying energy that fuels entire countries. Cars, factories, airplanes, electricity systems, all of it depends on oil moving safely through this one narrow path. If this flow slows down or stops, even for a short time, the effects begin to spread very quickly. Think of it like a main highway in a big city. If traffic is smooth, everything works fine. But if that one highway gets blocked, the entire city starts to feel it. Roads get crowded, deliveries get delayed, people get stuck. Now imagine that on a global level. That is what the Strait of Hormuz really is, the world's most important highway for energy. And here's what makes it even more serious. There is no easy alternative. Ships cannot simply take another route without adding huge time and cost. Going around would take much longer, burn more fuel, and slow down deliveries. That means higher prices, delayed supply, and more pressure on countries that already depend heavily on imported energy. This is why even the smallest tension in this area can shake global markets. It does not matter if the strait is fully closed or just at risk. The fear alone is enough to cause reactions. Traders start buying oil quickly, expecting prices to rise. Shipping companies become careful, sometimes delaying routes. Insurance costs for ships increase because the risk is higher. All of this happens before any official confirmation. And then comes the ripple effect. When oil prices rise, everything else follows. Transport becomes more expensive, goods become more expensive, even food prices can increase because supply chains depend on fuel. So even people who have never heard of the Strait of Hormuz can still feel its impact in their daily lives. But beyond money and markets, there is something deeper: control. This narrow passage holds a level of power that is hard to ignore. Whoever can influence this route can influence global energy flow, and when that control becomes uncertain, it creates a feeling of instability across the world. Countries start to think ahead. What if this situation gets worse? What if the flow is stopped for longer? Governments begin to prepare for possible shortages. Companies start planning for higher costs, and investors begin to move carefully, trying to avoid sudden losses. This chain reaction builds quietly, but its impact is massive. What makes the current situation different is not just the importance of the strait, it is how unpredictable it has become. In the past, even during tension, there was some level of understanding, some pattern. But now it feels like there is no clear direction. One moment brings calm, the next brings fear. And that unpredictability is dangerous because systems like global trade and energy supply depend on consistency. They need stable routes, clear signals, and reliable information. When those things disappear, even strong systems begin to shake. So when people hear that the Strait of Hormuz might be open or closed, it is not just a local update. It is a signal that affects prices, decisions, and confidence across the entire world. Because in the end, this is not just about a narrow strip of water. It is about the flow of energy that keeps the modern world running. It doesn't break all at once. It repeats. Open, relief, closed, panic, then again, open, calm, closed, fear. This is the pattern the world is now stuck in. Not a single crisis, but a cycle that refuses to stop. And with every repeat, the impact grows stronger. At first, people react quickly. A report comes in that the strait is open. Markets relax. Prices drop slightly. Ships prepare to move. It feels like things are under control again. But before that feeling can settle, another update appears. Maybe there is tension. Maybe there is a threat. Maybe the route is no longer safe. And just like that, everything flips again. This constant switching is what makes the situation so dangerous, because it is not just about what is happening. It is about not knowing what will happen next. And when uncertainty becomes constant, it starts to affect decisions in a deeper way. Shipping companies begin to hesitate. Instead of moving forward with confidence, they slow down. They wait, they double-check. Some even delay shipments completely, not because the route is fully closed, but because they cannot trust that it will stay open. And in global trade, even small delays can cause big problems. At the same time, markets are reacting faster than ever. Oil prices jump not only on real changes, but on expectations. A rumor, a statement, even a hint of tension can push prices up within minutes. Then, just as quickly, they drop again when the situation seems stable. This creates a kind of roller coaster, not driven by facts alone, but by fear and uncertainty. But the real impact is psychological. People start losing trust. When updates keep changing, when information feels unclear, when one statement is followed by another that says the opposite, it becomes harder to believe anything. Traders stop relying on official confirmation. Companies stop making long-term plans. Even governments begin to act more cautiously, unsure of what is truly happening. This is how chaos builds, not through a single event, but through repeated confusion. And the longer this cycle continues, the more exhausting it becomes. Not just for markets or companies, but for everyone involved. Decision makers are forced to stay alert at all times. Every new update must be analyzed. Every risk must be considered again and again. There is no stable moment, no clear direction, no time to relax. It's like trying to walk on a road that keeps changing beneath your feet. Just when you think it is safe, it shifts again. And this is where the real danger lies. Not just in the possibility of the strait closing, but in the loss of stability itself. Because global systems are not designed for constant uncertainty. They are built on patterns, on predictability, on trust. When those things start to disappear, even strong systems begin to weaken. Right now, the Strait of Hormuz is no longer just a location on the map. It has become a signal of how quickly stability can turn into confusion. A reminder that in today's world, even the most important systems can become unpredictable. And as this cycle continues, open, closed, one thing becomes harder to ignore. The world is no longer reacting to events. It is reacting to uncertainty itself. At some point, the problem stops being the strait itself and starts becoming everything around it. Because when something this important keeps changing again and again, the damage is no longer just physical. It becomes global, silent, and long-lasting. It spreads into decisions, into confidence, into the way the world prepares for the future. Right now, countries are watching closely, not just reacting to what is happening, but trying to guess what might happen next. And that is a very different situation. When decisions are based on guesswork instead of certainty, mistakes become more likely. Overreactions happen. Delays increase. The system slowly becomes less efficient. Energy-dependent countries begin to feel pressure first. They rely on a steady flow of oil to keep their economies running. When that flow becomes uncertain, they are forced to think ahead, to store more, to spend more, to prepare for worst-case scenarios. This adds cost, and over time, that cost reaches everyday people. Businesses also begin to adjust. Transport companies raise their prices. Manufacturers plan for delays. Supply chains, which are already complex, become even more fragile. A single disruption in one place can now affect multiple industries at once, and all of this starts from one simple question. Is the strait open, or is it closed? But maybe the biggest impact is something we cannot measure easily: confidence. Global systems run on trust. Trust that routes will stay open. Trust that information is accurate. Trust that stability will continue. But when that trust starts to break, even slowly, the effects can be powerful. Investors become careful, markets become sensitive, and people begin to expect problems even before they happen. This creates a new kind of reality, one where fear moves faster than facts. And that is exactly what makes this situation so serious. Because it is no longer just about ships or oil or trade. It is about how the world reacts when certainty disappears, when there is no clear answer, when something critical keeps changing without warning. So the question is no longer just about today, it is about tomorrow. What happens if this pattern continues? What happens if the strait keeps switching between open and closed? What happens if uncertainty becomes the new normal? These are not easy questions, and right now there are no clear answers. But one thing is becoming clear. When the world's most vital route becomes unpredictable, it's not just trade that is at risk, it's stability itself.